Hey everybody, it's Ryan with West Coast Stamp Company and StampCollectors.us. Today we're going to be taking a look at a new album that I just acquired. This one is pretty neat. It's mostly mint and it has nearly every design issue covered. Let's take a look to see what's in it. This is a Scott Minuteman album. Usually these are more of a youth type album than a serious collector, but as you're going to see in here, this collector really put some money into his collection. I have not inspected each one individually yet. I'm not going to do that in this video either. This is just to give you a quick preview to see what's inside this album. You can also see that the album has been taped here at the sides. It's been through a lot of years, but let's take a look and see what's inside. Join the #1 stamp sales group on Facebook, where I list 75 premium US stamps every week, many of them selling for well below retail. In fact, many stamp dealers are buying from my group and are making a profit on what they're buying. Just search for US Stamp Shop on Facebook to get better deals on better stamps. And also, please like this video and subscribe to my channel to help support the stamp collecting hobby and allow me to make more videos just like this. On the first page here, this looks to be just a homemade page with clear mounts. We've got a 573 up here in the corner, C3, E7 at the top, and this is the parcel post set here. Mostly looks all mint. There's a couple maybe duplicates in here that appear to be used. This 25 cent looks pretty well centered, although it's got a little mark on the side there. Nice parcel post set. On this page we have some newspaper issues. These are likely the lower valued issue with the single line watermark. Next page we have a couple C11 plate blocks. On this side we have a #1 with a pen cancel, and then it's written out paid 5 cents from Richmond. The cover looks to be in pretty bad shape, lots of tears here. Now that I look at it, it also looks like there's a red cancel on it. So it's got both a pen and a red cancel. On this page, we're starting with the first issues here. Here's another #1 and a #2. #2 looks like it's barely 4 margins there. And then these are the designs of the 3 and 4, but I can already tell by feeling it here that these are card proofs. These are still worth a bit of money, but they are not as expensive as the actual Scott 3 and 4. Proofs are usually a lot cheaper than the actual stamps. Plate proofs might be a great way to fill spots in your album for those more expensive stamps. Okay, down the page here we have 1 cent. I can't really see without a magnifying glass what design type this one is. It does have a light cancel on it though, so this one is used. And then over here is an 11A, so this is going to be the dull red color. It is a type 2. It has a small double frame line here on the right. Next to that is the #12, 5 cent. This one is also lightly canceled. It looks to be just barely 4 margins, but I'm seeing 4 complete margins here on this guy. Then below that looks to be a #15. This is going to be the type 3 design of the 10 cent. And this one looks almost unused, so we'll have to check that one out a little closer. And followed by a 17, and it looks like there's 2 of them here. One maybe, I don't think that's unused. I think there's probably a washed cancel on that. I could be wrong. Not sure if this one's used or not. We'll have to check that one out, but there is a used one right behind it. Then we have the perforated examples here. It doesn't look like they have each design type, but they have a representation of all the base designs here. I'm going to assume that they're going to have the more affordable design types to have one of each of them. Yes, this looks like it's broken at the top. That's a 24 with a scratch there on the side, scratched plate. Then a 26 with the continuous frame line on the sides. This one looks to be possibly a 30. Might be the orange brown color. We'll need to look at that one under a little better lighting, but that one might be the 30 or 30A, but it is definitely a type 2. And then a 35 on the 10 cent, that's a type 5. And the 12 cent is a 36. This one looks to be a complete frame around the top there and on the side, so that's a 36, not a 36B. And then a 37 is the 24 cent, and then 38 is the 30, and 39 is the 90. And actually the 90 has a higher catalog value if genuinely used. If you ever come across the number 39 that's used, you're going to need to get a certificate of authenticity for that because cancels are often faked on this issue. Genuinely used examples of the Scott 39 are going to be way more valuable than the mint or unused examples. So having that cert that proves that it is genuinely used is going to be required if you're going to try to get anywhere near the catalog value for this stamp. On the next page, we have the 1861 issues. This is looking to be very complete in terms of a representation of each of the design types. These all look to be unused as well. There is a pretty nice cancel down here on the 30 cent. Nice July 4th, so 4th of July, 1862. That would have been during the Civil War. So that's a nice cancel on that stamp. And the centering doesn't look too bad on it as well. Most of these look to be very good centering, I would say. Very fine is going to be more difficult to do. Over here looks to be a 65. It looks like it's got original gum on it. But I did notice this one just to be a little bit better centered. I'm not sure what's going on with that perf there. It looks like it's been reattached. So unfortunately, that's a small fault on the 65. The 2 cent up here also has a nice little rosette cork cancel on it. Okay, let's check out the next page. Here we have different grilled varieties. Like I've been seeing in this album, this collector didn't try to get every design type. It looks like these grill varieties may also be mixed, but if they're gonna go for the cheaper grilled varieties, then they would be going for the F grill. The first 3 issues look to be unused. Then we have a used 5 cent that's decently centered for this issue. This one's very tough to get centered, has very small margins, so that one looks probably very fine for that particular issue. 10, 12, and then 15, there are a couple here, one used and possibly unused. 15 cents. Most stamps printed in black during this time are a bit hard to tell whether they're genuinely unused or not, just because it's hard to see a black cancel on top of the black ink. So you either have to be really meticulous when looking to see if these stamps have been unused or not, or the certificate's going to help you determine that. This is a nice cancel on the 24 cent. If authentic, I can see the grill here next to his head. George Washington's head is perfectly centered into the negative area of this cancellation so that it's not covering up his face. That's really attractive, even though the centering is poor on that one, which it normally is. And then it looks like a 100, which is the F grill of the 30, and a 101, which is the F grill of the 90. And this one also looks to be a 4 margin example. If the grill is actually genuine, we'd have to check that out, and if these perforations haven't been altered as well. Now on this page are the pictorials of 1869. These are known as the pictorial issues because instead of just showing portraits of people, these ones actually have illustrated designs in them. We've got the train on the number 114. I really like the steamship on the 12 cent. And then you have some scenes like Columbus on the 15 cent and the Declaration of Independence on the 24 cent. Now, these look also to be unused here at the top, and all the way up to the 10 cent appears to be unused. Then the 12 cent is lightly canceled. Here is a type 2 of the 15 cent. So this is going to be the more affordable variety versus the type 1. This one looks to be unused. Same with the 24 and the 30 cent. And then there's also another 30 cent behind this one. That's lightly canceled. And then down here you have the 90 cents. Now here's a used example. It looks like almost 4 margins on that. I call that one fine. And then you have what appears to possibly be an unused one. If so, it looks very faulty in terms of the perforations. This might be a perforated proof. And looking at the back, yeah, it actually even has the word proof written on it. Not a bad space filler if you're trying to have unused of this set. The 90 cent gets super expensive. Again, like I said, proofs are a nice way to fill the spots in your album with the correct design type and a nice, really clear impression and color on those proofs. Okay, on the next page, these are noted without grill. This is going to be the large banknote series of 1870, although I'm not sure if this collector separated the secret mark versions or not. We'll take a look at the next page here in a second. It looks like most of these are unused. I do feel like there's a little bit of cancellation perhaps on this 30 cent. I'll have to look at it more closer, but the majority of them look unused. I don't think this is the Carmen 155. I think this is a 166. This looks to be more of a Carmen rose color on this one. So one might be misidentified here on this page. On the next page, these are the secret marked versions of the large banknotes. And here you can see that the 24 cent is space filled with a proof. This space filler is filling the spot for Scott number 164. Scott 164 is so extremely rare that it has a catalog value of over $350,000. This collector is using a proof in its place, but I often see a lot of stamp albums that don't even have a spot for the 24 cent. I don't think most collectors are going to obtain one in their lifetime. To have that empty spot in the album just feels wrong because you're not able to complete the page. A lot of stamp albums have taken that spot out of this particular set. Fortunately, there's no color or secret mark distinction between the 164 and the 153. The catalog mentions that the only way to tell the difference between the two is that they believe that the 164 was printed on ribbed paper. So that would mean when holding it up to the light, you'd be able to see some ribbing happening in the paper where there's some heavier lines that you would notice in that paper. Again, these all appear to be mostly unused except this 10 cent. I do see a light cancel on here, and just by the color and softness of the edges around it, I think this is a 209 that's in the wrong spot. And then we have the Rose Carmen of the 90 cent, which I had mentioned on the previous page, I think is the same thing. Kind of see the similarities of the colors here between the two. This one's a little bit warmer even than this one, but I think they're both the Rose Carmen. All right, on the next page is going to be the soft porous paper on these issues. The easiest way to tell if you have soft porous paper or not is to take a stamp and hold it up to the light. You'll be able to see the texture of the soft porous paper. You'll see tiny dots of light showing through the paper. And when held up with a regular stamp, you'll definitely be able to tell that the soft porous paper is much thicker. So on here we have a couple different color changes, the 3 cent over to vermilion, the 30 cent over to orange brown, and then you have a 218, which is the purple design of the 90 cent. These again all appear to be unused. Maybe the 6 cent, I'm seeing a little light cancel here, but they'll have to be checked. And then on the next page here, we have the 1882 issues, and these ones are going to also look unused. The 6 cent up here, that's a really nice color on that one. The 6 cent is in the deep brown red color. This looks really nice, really strong impression and color on that one. Now we go to the American banknote designs. They're also called the small banknotes of 1890. And this looks to be a complete set. It's got the lake variety of the 2 cent. Not seeing any caps on these twos. Noticing a little bit of faults on some of these as we go through here. Again, condition is going to be a factor. A little bit of staining here on the 15 cent. The 30 cent and the 90 cent are going to be the better stamps of this set. It definitely looks really nice when you have a fully completed mint example of a set like this. It just really shows you how these stamps were originally supposed to look together when they originally sold, and you get a good feel of what they were originally supposed to look like before they were used through the mail and had cancels put on top of them. Having a complete set like this on the page and like the other pages we've been seeing just looks really nice. All right, next are the Colombian issues. These are going to be through the 50 cent on this page, and they all appear to be unused as well. And we have the dollar value Colombians, also looks complete and unused here. The $4 has pretty nice margins. I would say that's very fine, maybe a tad better. I'll have to look at that one a little closer. The Trans-Mississippi issue below that looks to be complete as well and also unused. Pretty stamps. This collector definitely put some money into this collection, but maybe not as much money as you think, because I am seeing some faults. I am seeing things that are not very well centered. We haven't even checked or looked at the gum yet. You might be surprised on how affordable some of these more expensive stamps can be if you get them with some faults and the centering not so good on them. If you're trying to get unused examples, then getting ones without the original gum are going to be much more affordable. And once they're in your album and you look at it like we're doing now, nobody's going to even see what the gum condition looks like. So if you're not too concerned about the gum, collecting without gum is a nice way to put together a very presentable, nice looking collection at a much lower price. But because the original gum does add so much value to stamps, if you're looking to have a more sound investment and possibly have something that goes up in value a bit more or holds its value more, then having sound original gum stamps are definitely going to hold more value and more money than the ones without. All right, on the next page, we have the Pan American set, followed by the Louisiana Purchase. And then we have the regular issues of 1902 here. Again, all of this is looking nice and complete, including the $1, $2, and $5 of this set. A couple shorter perfs I'm seeing on the 5. And then we have a imperf pair of the 5 cent design, which makes this a Scott 315. And what's nice about it being in a pair is that you are 100% certain that this is a legit imperforate. Scott 315 is often faked. We'll find a 5 cent of the perforate issue with large margins around it and simply cut those off and trim them to make them look like the imperforate version. And sometimes the fakes can be really good in terms of how large the margins are around the design. So you really want to make sure that you get a 315 certified if it's a single stamp. The pairs you may not need to, because you can tell that this one is truly imperforate because it's connected to another stamp. And this 2 cent is super nicely centered here. I'm not sure which type this is yet. I'd have to take a look at it, but unfortunately it looks like there is a tear or crease in the center of it. Yeah, it looks like a heavy crease. That's unfortunate because that's so nicely centered for this issue. And here is the 1 cent 314 imperf pair. I made a video about the 1 cent design from 1902. If you want to check it out, I'll put a link up here. And I go over all the different variations of this design and why a lot of people on the internet are claiming that it's one of the most rare and expensive stamps that are known. Unfortunately, it's just really not the case. There are a couple issues that do have this design that are pretty rare and valuable, but for the most part, what you're going to find, even in a nice high value collection like this, are going to be the lower value Scott number 300 and Scott 314. Next, we have the Jamestown set and what looks like the bluish paper of the Lincoln Memorial. That's 369. Seeing some condition issues on some of these. This one has a crease down here. Okay, next we have the Panama Pacific issue here. This is going to be in both Perf 12 and Perf 10 with a 404 down here. That's the 10 cent Perf 10. That one's definitely going to be the more scarce one of the bunch. Again, all mint. Centering is not very good on a lot of these, but complete. Got a full complete set here of the 22 regular issues. Another 573. That one looks pretty well centered. Unfortunately, this one's not the very expensive 613. This one looks just to be a duplicate of the 612 just to fill that spot. That's a super expensive stamp. Catalogs at $35,000. This one, you can definitely tell that's a Perf 10. Matches exactly the same widths between the perfs as this one. This is the Perf 11, but to get the Scott 613, you need to have these perforations on a rotary press design. So that's going to be this design, which is just a little bit taller. In one of my last videos, I mentioned these stamp tongs that I really like. They're super narrow and thin. They're really good for grabbing stuff. I'll put a link on this video down below. You just have really good accuracy in terms of picking up a stamp with it fairly quickly. It's not very intrusive in terms of how much of the design they're covering. So I really like that aspect of them. And you just seem to have a bit more control and agility when handling stamps with these much smaller, thinner tongs. But what I want to show you with these is a little trick. These also come in handy for opening up mounts that are stuck. So I'm trying to get this one out. It's stuck down here at the bottom and the top, so I can't pull it out. But what's nice about these is I could easily slip it under ever so carefully, and then I just bring it out and pull over, and it acts like scissors almost, or like a blade. That's how sharp these are. You do need to be careful with them a bit, but they're really great for opening up stamps like that have been stuck down on both sides. Here's another one. And I could just easily go like that, a little wipe, and now it's free. So they come in handy for that as well. I use these little guys for like everything. I even use them to open up packages. A good utility tool to have when you're collecting. The rotary design, which is this one in the Perf 10, you can tell if I line them up here like this, the rotary version is just a little bit taller than the flat plate. You want to get the taller design, but with the Perf 11 on here. Then we have some of the 11 by 10.5 perfs on the definitives. Here is a white plain souvenir sheet. This is the first souvenir sheet that the United States ever released in 1926. Now, this is a bottom left pane position, and I could tell that because the top left has a much larger selvage here at the top, so the paper on the top is much larger. And then usually there's also a little triangle cut out of the corner of the top left position. And here you can see there is a bit of the guideline of where this was cut at along the top here. That puts this in the lower left. Lower right would have the large part of the salvage on the opposite side over here, with the smaller salvage being on this side. So flip-flopped on that. These came in a press sheet of 4, and the lower left position, which is this one, has a plate number 18771. If this was plate 18773 or 18774, then this would be the dot over the S variety that is a little bit more valuable than the regular. And those are only found on the lower left pane position, which this one is. But it's just the wrong plate number that we're looking for on here to check for that dot on the S variety. And we have some more of the fairly common issues here. Is the Kansas and Nebraska sets. Unfortunately, the reissue of the 11 by 10.5 of the 11 cent through the 50 cent, this looks like there's a lot of damage. I'm seeing some staining on these. They are all very poorly centered. Space filler set there. And then you have the Washington Bicentennial issue. And then it looks like we just get into the more common stuff after 1930. I'm not going to go through this whole album, but I am going to go up to the couple issues that I look for as I go into the 1930s here. I'm looking to see if there's anything that's very well centered. These stamps are generally not worth much because they're so common, but if you find one that's very well centered and sound condition and have it graded, it could be worth hundreds of dollars. Not seeing anything jumping out as being superb on this page. And there's a complete Prexy set up to the $5. We don't have the coil line pairs. That would have been better to have here. And here we're going into the 1940s famous American set. Here's a set of the Overrun Country issues. Here's a Scott 1053, which is the only stamp really worth more than face value out of the 1954 set. The rest of what we have here looks to be pretty common material. This stuff issued after 1935 is essentially worth face value. Unused United States stamps never expire, so you could use them to mail letters or even packages today. You just need to have the right amount of them on the package or the letter to make the current rate. The current first class rate to send a regular letter through the mail is 73 cents. You would need to have, for example, 10 of these 8-cent stamps to make the rate to send that letter using these stamps. I buy and sell a lot of unused postage. It's probably what I mostly buy and sell from a day-to-day basis. They usually sell in bulk for anywhere between 60 to 70% face value, depending on what they are. The higher up you go in denominations, the more percentage of face value you might actually get, because you need less of them to put on a package or a letter to make the rate. So a buyer who's going to use these for postage may pay you a little bit more for the higher denomination stamps, especially the ones over $1 in face value. And then it goes up to, looks like 1982 or so with the state birds here. And that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed taking a look at that collection with me. It's a very nice collection, although there are some faults in it. It's really neat to see a lot of those sets complete with unused versions of these stamp designs. You just don't see that every day. This collector did put a lot of money into this collection, even though he was looking for affordable versions of these stamps that have little faults on them or aren't well centered, but it still makes for a very pretty album. Very complete and neat looking, and what a lot of collectors strive to eventually have. I hope you enjoyed looking at that with me. Like always, most of these stamps are going to become available in my Facebook group. I'll put a link also in the description to that. And as always, best of luck and happy collecting.